The problem is I have been doing a really bad job with the audio. The problem is I don't actually know how to make a podcast. So I I am really loud if you didn't know this about me, but you're supposed
Details.
yeah, you're supposed to keep the recording settings so it downloads as two separate audio files so that I can be
Hmm.
loud and you can be a normal person and I can mix it to sound. But then I haven't been doing that. So they've sounded like shit if you've listened to them.
I listened to the one that you had with your Texas friend there.
With Danny, yeah.
Yeah.
The sound wasn't too bad on that one, but after that it went
No, it
down.
was
So
fine.
I'm trying on this one. The last two are a little, I don't know. So you're my new guinea pig for sound. We'll
Nice.
see. We'll see if it makes a difference. Andy, okay, so when I started this podcast, you messaged me almost immediately and said you volunteered as tribute here. What, why? What made you, what are we doing?
I don't. I always thought it was awesome. Like I don't know. I just like when that whole thing started. That whole people self-recording and doing their own little sound studios and stuff like that. I always thought like that's awesome. I would love to do that. And then then when I was 1 degree removed from somebody that was
It's
actually
true.
doing it, I was like, yeah, that I'm in.
I know. So apparently my mom has been listening to them, which okay. And the last episode, I interviewed my friend Bree, who's in a polyamory relationship. And like, my mom was today, she was like, at here, and she's like, I don't know. I just stopped listening. I don't understand what any of that is, Mom or Ange. And I was like, I've told you before, my content is not for you. But she goes, well, who are you interviewing next? And I said, Andy. And she goes, oh my God, I can't wait to listen. And I was like, that changes the
Oh,
whole
she's all in.
trajectory. Changes the whole trajectory of what I was going to bring up, Mom. But I didn't say no. So
That's
my mom is
awesome.
listening, just and then she was like, I've raised Andy, he's like another son. And I said, that's not true. She has delusional memories about our childhood. I don't know. So like, I have known you since 8th grade, but
I mean,
I wouldn't say, remember she introduced you to Danny as he was almost my
the
son-in-law, and we are
the
like, that
one
was
that got
kind of,
away or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that literally was
I
not
mean,
a
hey,
thing.
I'm gonna just take that as I made an awesome impression.
I mean, like, okay, as a parent, you were my first date in 8th grade. I think we were
Mhm.
boyfriend and girlfriend for 2 weeks. And but I guess as a
Two
parent,
weeks.
that's a monumental. That's about all I make it now anyway with anyone. So that really hasn't changed much. I think that was monumental enough for her, so she remembers. That's probably why, right?
It was definitely longer than 2 weeks, but
I don't even think it
whatever.
was. It was not. Well, now that Andy's like, let me get on my calendar. I kept track.
Yeah.
Here's what here's what I do want you to answer, because this has been a topic for me lately. Because I will preface this as you're in a relationship now, but for a long time you weren't, and
Mhm.
you were kind of the problematic type of guy that I talk about. I would say for years, admittedly, you were. So I want answers.
Did I just walk into an ambush?
Yeah, well, what did you think we were going to talk about, Andy? I want answers and I want them now.
I see.
What?
I bet. I bet. I bet I was probably in or relationship adjacent, and you just were unaware.
Well, you're a secret squirrel.
Right. I don't really. I
Yes.
mean, I'm just not that way. Like I don't. I don't.
Your
You know.
girlfriend now, who you live with and have for, so you lived with her for how long? You,
Oh, 4, maybe 3 years.
okay, so
3 years at least. 3 years at least. Yeah.
the one time I met you or met her for briefly, and I was not introduced. This story is my favorite. We were at some event, some
I
public
don't
event.
do. I'm really awful with
Okay,
that.
she
I'm
came up next to you and stood there like a normal person waiting to be introduced, and you didn't even acknowledge her. And so I was looking at everyone else like, is this the person that he likes, or is this someone that likes him that he's trying to get rid of? Like, what is this like a I don't know who, and I never brought it up again. And then years
I'm
later, when I saw a picture of you two on Facebook, I was like, that's his girlfriend? And I thought that was some just crazy bitch that was stalking him.
no, I'm such a piece of shit at that. Like I don't.
I know
I'm
you
just
are.
never. We did it. So like so Erica came over last Sunday, and we went and watched the Packer game.
Yeah.
And we went to this place where, you know, sometimes we go watch the game, and it was really weird. It was like every 2 minutes, somebody else, like from the neighborhood or a friend from whatever, was like walking in, and it was like I felt like the mayor of Pewaukee, because it was
Because you knew
like,
everybody.
hey, what's going on? Everybody comes over to, you know, do the greet, shake the hand or whatever. And I realized it like groups of people had went through, and and they all knew who Tanya was too.
Yeah.
But Erica sitting there, and I was like, fuck.
You didn't introduce her. You're
And then
just,
so I had to like actively tell myself, like, the next time somebody walks in, and then when those people come back, you introduce them or whatever, because then I just feel bad, because Erica was, I mean, she didn't care, obviously, you know, but
this
I
makes sense.
just
So I did look up your astrology before we got on the phone because I wanted to remember. And you have an Aquarius moon like me, so that would explain the Aquarius energy. Your moon is like how you are. I know you don't believe in this stuff, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It's like who you are at your emotional core, and you don't fucking notice things. Like I mean, you do, but like that kind of stuff. I'm the same way. I don't remember people's names. I don't remember anything. I just
oh
don't.
no,
I don't know
no.
anyone.
And I've always, well, not always, but like after I got older, and you start to learn more things about yourself, like anxiety and stuff like that, like just not like self-diagnosing or anything, but you learn about things that you probably had dealt with and stuff when you were younger, but you didn't know
Yeah.
what they were, you
Yeah.
know. So I always chalked up, and this is total bullshit, I just made it up, like it's maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I always chalked it up to, like, when I meet someone, especially a new person, and they
Mhm.
introduce themselves to me, I have 10,000 things going on in my head. Like, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what is this person thinking about me? What am I doing? What do I look like? What am I doing? What, like, those are all the things that are going through my head. Meanwhile, they just told me their name, and it's
You didn't
fucking
hear it.
gone, because
Yeah.
and it's not that I don't care. It's not that, it's actually probably that I care too much, because I'm like, I'm trying to,
Yes.
you know, be
You're
an upstanding
that's
person, and I'm trying
I'm looking at your chart again. So the rest of your chart, so you have what's a Leo, like you know that you're a Leo sun, but I'm just for
yeah.
anyone listening. You have a
Well,
Leo
I knew I was a
stellium.
Leo. I don't
You
know
have
what
a
the
lot of
all
Leo
the
energy. You have a Leo stellium. So if you have so your whole personality isn't just your sun sign. It's like I believe, and like I guess it's I don't know. I believe that we choose like where and when we're going to be born because it gives us our core personality for like our soul's mission. And astrology is what picks that. So it's all where all the planets are at the moment of your birth, right? So like looking at yours, if you have three or more placements in one sign, you are more that than anything else. It's called the stellium. So you are a Leo because your sun, your Mercury, and your Venus are all in Leo, and your Jupiter. So like you have a lot of Leo energy. So you probably really identify with any descriptions of being a Leo, and that's that
huh,
like worrying about what people are thinking about how you look and how you sound and being
yeah,
And then
100%, yeah.
your rising sign is a Taurus rising. So Taurus placements, and your rising is like how you look to people that first meet you. It is who you are, but it's basically like how you show up to people. It's not really you at your core. Like you at your core or that Leo, and then the Aquarius moon is like who you really are. The only people that know you the most know that you are just kind of a
Okay.
weirdo, you know. But you're
Nice.
right. Your rising is Taurus, so that makes sense. And when you said I think I was born at 11 p.m. and I looked at, it, I was like, yeah, because the time gives you the rising, and Taurus rising makes sense because that's like Taurus energy loves really nice things. They like to look like they're kind of easygoing and slow moving and really chill and really like everything looks really perfect on the outside. And I think that makes sense because it's like then all that blend of Leo and Aquarius, like really people, those of us that know you know there's a lot more neurotic shit going on in there.
Right.
So I
100%.
so
Absolutely.
I think that totally explains why you always kind of look like an asshole because you weren't introducing anyone and it looked like you were shady, but you were just really all that other stuff was going on.
Right. So I didn't make that up. It's actually somewhat true that I'm not, it's not, and that's the thing that's always kind of drove me crazy, is like I have that initial interaction with somebody, especially like a new person or whatever, is always like, it's there's almost like nothing there for me right away.
Right.
because it's like I'm focused way too much on a presentation, right,
Yeah.
of myself or of whatever is going on, and then that's why it takes me a little bit longer to kind of for me to crack through with somebody else, and also to start hearing more of what those someone else is saying, so that I'm and now, but then when that connection gets made at whatever level, I mean,
Yeah.
friendship or whatever it is, like
Yeah.
it's then I'm like extraordinarily loyal and
Yeah.
way too potentially too connected, like
That's
for
the
certain
Leo
levels of friendship
energy.
or whatever. But
I think that's the Leo energy. The Aquarius moon thing is really like, because you and I both have that, it's never feeling like anyone will truly understand you fully or know all the parts of you. Like, and it's probably
right.
true too, because you probably, I mean, even like you and I have known each other, Jesus, okay, so what, I don't even know, 30 years, but
You're gonna do
that's a
the
lot of,
math.
that's a lot of years.
It might be more
20
than
some
30 years.
years. Yeah. But so but I think, but yeah, like you saying that, I don't think I ever really thought about it that way. So like, but that's what I mean about people don't really, and it kind of fucks with you depending on where you're at in a mental health place, because that's been my biggest mental health struggle most of my life, is like nobody gets me, nobody understands me, especially when you're a rising sign and you're I think your chart otherwise is a really well-rounded like personality. I just have so much air and I'm all Libra. And then I'm Sagittarius rising. So this is why people always are like, "Oh my God, you
So your
look like you
birthday's in
would."
September, right?
October 1st. October 1st.
October.
No, October 1st Libra. So, but I have like 4 placements in Libra. I have as much Libra energy as you do Leo. And then I have that weirdo Aquarius moon where no one understands me, but then I'm Sagittarius rising. So everyone that meets me initially is like, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful and you're so fun. And oh my God, I bet you would be so much fun. You're so much fun." And I'm like, "No, I just want to sit home under a blanket, like by myself." I'm not fun. I hate it. So it's because the rising sun is like what people think. So people probably think you're a little more stubborn and arrogant, and you're really not. You're just thinking.
Right. Oh, 100%. Well, I am stubborn for sure. That's a,
Yeah,
not a great trait. Arrogant no, I couldn't possibly be further from from that.
I
Like
know.
the insecurities are real, but
I think guys hide that a lot more, but this is where it gets into that gray area because I've been talking to a lot of like, oh, so this was the thing I wanted answers on. But I think guys hide them a lot more, especially when you get into your 30s and you're dating guys that have been mostly single, like not literally lived with people or had kids or whatever, not married.
mhm,
There's usually some stuff going on there where they have insecurities and like you're saying, even like there's things there that they haven't
yeah,
dealt with, but
totally.
that doesn't mean that as women or men or whoever you're dating, I don't care about gender, but that doesn't mean that we need to like stick around and hold space for them to fix it so that they can be in a relationship with us either. Like that's what I keep telling my clients. Like I
Right.
get that they have issues, but you don't need to. You still have to have your needs met. You can't be like, well, they're insecure, so I'm just gonna
Not,
wait.
yeah, it's not up to you to fix anybody else's issues. It's up to them. I mean, it's up to you if you want to go along for the ride. Like
Yeah,
if you're able to. I mean, I think it would be a good sign if you're like in a relationship with somebody and that person is either confident enough or comfortable enough with you to talk to you about their issues.
yeah,
That's a great thing, right? And if you hear those issues and you're willing to say, okay, yeah, let's you know spend X amount of time trying to work these out. Now, don't
right.
do it forever, maybe, or maybe you do. I'm sure a lot of people have.
But there's a lot of like, okay, so this is what I was getting at. I was just talking to one of my other guy friends about this week. Everybody I've ever dated does this thing where they randomly check back in. I just got a text from a guy I used to date today that's like, "How are you doing?"
Like what after the fact?
Months later, like just
That's
I can't.
crazy.
Once every few weeks, I get a text from a guy I've dated that usually broke up with me in a really polite way, saying it just didn't feel like the right fit, asking me how I'm doing. Why?
Why?
No, I'm asking
I don't mean it
you.
that, and I don't mean it like
No,
a like in a.
no, but why? I want to know what you think as a guy.
It's not a like. I don't. I mean, we're not like censored here or anything. Like, isn't
No,
this like a booty call thing or a?
no, no.
No, this is like a, hey, I want to chat.
No, it's mostly just how are you doing. So my other buddy Jake says
That's
he
wild.
does this. Well, I'm glad to hear you haven't done it. He said he's done it and he does it because um like you're hoping the girl's gonna say something that'll lead to more, or I think it's attention, or I think it's but it's like I don't understand why it's like I'm like leave me the fuck alone. That's what I told my guy friend Jake too, because I was like leave women that you don't want to be in a relationship with alone.
And
Because
how
we
about like
think what
these relationships, like how, like
short,
what level
just
of relationship? Okay.
not taught
Because
dating.
I don't, I can honestly tell you, like I've never, once a relationship was over, whether it was,
I know.
and I never had, I was either, for me, I was either in a relationship or it wasn't a relationship at all. And if it was in a relationship, it was months and months and months and months and months.
Yeah,
Like I never had many relationships that were less than a year.
yeah,
Um, and so for me, like when those relationships ended, that was a wrap. Like I wouldn't, outside of passing them on the street,
yeah,
and feeling obligated to say hello or something, I just wouldn't, because it wouldn't, for me, it would feel inappropriate. There were only two circumstances I can think of where I reached out to a long-term ex-girlfriend,
yeah,
and that was because of that I saw of or heard of a death in the family.
yeah,
And that was it.
yeah,
And I didn't expect anything back. I did anything. It was just I felt obligated to say something,
yeah.
being a part of that life or whatever. But I don't. I cannot. I honestly, I wish I could. I wish I could
I
give you
think
some sort of insight there.
no, this kind of proves
I
my point because I was talking to Danny about this yesterday. Danny, Texas Danny, that you met. I was saying, I think the difference is the level of integrity that the guy has. Like honestly, because if I would say you do have integrity, and that you don't, if especially if you're the one that broke it off, like move along, don't fuck with the person's head anymore, just keep going.
Right. Well,
Versus
a hundred
like,
percent. If that's the case, if you broke it
yeah,
off, then that's 100% the case. You should not be reaching back. But
that's what
if
I'm
you,
saying.
even if, even if you were the one who, even if amicable or whatever, or you got
Yeah.
dumped, I guess, for lack of a better, I don't know what word we use these days. Like I, I still don't. For me, I would be too proud, I guess, is
Yeah, that's all that
to reach
Leo.
out to that person. I just wouldn't be able to do it. It would absolutely stop me from doing it. And I know
No,
that happens a lot. Like people are, I mean, that's what restraining orders are for, right? Like,
I know.
but I don't, I can't, like, I can't even think. And there are a couple of exes who relationships ended and it wasn't like a bad circumstance or anything. And it would not cross my mind to reach back to them, even to
See,
just
well, if anything, you just prove that there are
say happy
no.
birthday. I wouldn't even do
I
that.
know.
Like I just,
I don't get. I have a litany of guys that I've dated for a few weeks that never will
yeah,
leave me alone. They just never. And I guess it's shame on me. Like that's what I've been looking at this one specifically. Like I'm a nice person, and so when they pop back up, I'm like, oh hi. It's not like they're
maybe,
trying to hook up. Sometimes they're
is it
planning
like
a date.
maybe it's just like you're a good talker, obviously, like maybe it's a conversation. They want some conversation. They want to,
Or is it like the girlfriend experience when you're lonely but you don't actually want a relationship? I don't know. Like you just want a girl to text and be
yeah,
nice to you. I
yeah.
It's so annoying, but I'm not like a bad person and I don't care enough to block them because I'm but I try it's
Does
like
it,
I
does it
don't
happen? This is going to sound like a weird
no, that's
question, but
okay.
just let me go with it. Does it happen more seasonally? Like,
No, all
like
year long.
no, all year? See,
Yeah.
because we were just having this conversation about a buddy of mine, and I love this. I think it's hilarious, but I won't give too much detail because I don't want to throw anybody under the
Nobody listens to this. It's
podcast
fine.
boss.
No.
um, but this guy, like he had met this uh lady earlier this summer. It was in like April or May. I
Mhm.
want to say it was May. Went out had a nice date, and we actually had like ran into him, and super nice, great lady. I thought they were like happy together, having a good time. And he was like, nah, not for me. I broke it off with her or whatever. Well, fast forward to like October 1st, they reconnected and now
Mhm.
he's head over heels and whatever. And I'm like, and I legitimately told the guys, dude, you're a piece of shit. I said,
Yes.
you want your summer to kick it and do whatever. Now he disagrees. And I was really just kind of jabbing him. Like I'm maybe it's
Yeah.
true, but it's probably not true. But I was like, dude, this doesn't look good, buddy. Like
No, it's a
it looks
thing.
like you want to
D-
get, and what did Tanya call it? Like cupping season or something like
Cuffing
that.
season. It is cuffing season
Cuffing
right
season.
now. Yeah, it's a thing. So I don't know if you've ever heard this story. I'll out my brother on this because my brother has been with his wife since they were 15 and 16, right? 16, so I don't know,
Yeah.
yeah. But they did break up for a little bit. So I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but this is when he was a piece of shit. And I was completely on Michelle's side during this too, because she was like one of my best friends. But I think we were in our early 20s because I lived in Milwaukee. We were in our early
I have
20s.
trouble picturing your brother being a piece of shit, but
Oh,
all
he
right.
was a piece of shit this year. He was a piece of shit in high school too. I don't know. They were whatever. He wasn't. So there was this summer, like they had to be like 1 or 2 years out of school, right?
High
Michelle
school.
was
Yeah.
probably 20 and I was probably 21. So the other Andy was 19, probably. Him and Rudy and I don't know, their whole group of guys decided
Rudy.
in the spring, they all dumped their girlfriends and for spring cleaning so that they could go be whores all summer long. And they said it, and I knew what he did. And so he broke up with Michelle, and she was beside herself because they had been in love. They had been for,
Spring cleaning.
they called it spring cleaning. So Michelle and I were like best friends at this point. So I just spent every day with her crying, and I was like, I know he's my brother, but he's a piece of shit. And he'd be out trying to hit on girls or whatever, and I'd go out to the bar with him all the time, and he was always
Oh
striking
my
out. And
God.
this is back when he was a very good-looking young like thin guy then, and
Why he's a
but
strapping fella,
he
yeah.
is, but even back then he was in really good shape. But he was just striking out because he's never been single, and so he didn't know, and so
Right.
he was getting. And too, when you're single, you get told no as a guy more than you say yes. But he's so sensitive, so he was not doing well with it. So the whole summer goes by. My mom and I are just like, we love you, but like you can do better. I don't know. And like I'd be out with him, and I'd just be like, you fucking suck. What are you doing? Go back to Michelle. Okay, so
Oh
it's
my God.
it's winding. The summer's winding down. It's been terrible. He's crying. It's like and he had dropped out of school by then at UWM, because he said he was getting too distracted by all how pretty all these girls were and that he couldn't concentrate.
He
So I
really
dropped.
said that?
Yeah, he wasn't used to all these hot broads. I think that's the phrase he used being around. So he dropped out of college, and most of the girls he was meeting then were like, oh, what are you doing with your life? And he was like, well, I don't know, I'm doing concrete work with my uncle this summer, and I dropped out of college. And they were like, oh, no thank you.
Yeah, see ya.
So he was like, oh. But meanwhile, she had gotten a new boyfriend who was like he was like a business executive. He was so good where he took care of her, he did all this stuff, and he had taken her. I love this story. He had taken her
So
up.
he was like a
No,
little bit older, maybe?
yeah, and he was great.
Yeah.
He was a great guy, and she couldn't stand him, but she loved my brother. But she was with him because she was like, well, what else am I gonna do? Just sit home and
Gotta
cry.
be with somebody.
So they, at the end of the
Jesus
summer,
Christ.
her family went up to their cabin in northern Wisconsin, and he came with because he was the boyfriend. They had been together like a couple months, and so he's with her
Yeah.
whole family up north. And my brother calls her out of the blue and is like, wasted, and was like, we need to get back together.
Bawling.
And she goes, well, I have a whole boyfriend, and like he's up at the cabin, and he was like, you're at
I
the
have a
cabin.
whole boyfriend.
You're at the cabin. I'll be right there. He gets in the car and go. Either he drove to the cabin to get her, or she just got in her car and left. But she definitely just left her boyfriend with her
This
family.
dude just left this guy there.
And got back together with my brother. But it was the worst. I mean, it was his spring cleaning year. He was a piece of shit. And now they've been married like 20 some years. I mean, they've been together.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I still love that story because he's, I would say, like one of the best guys. He's a great husband. There's not a unfaithful bone in that guy's body. He loves my sister-in-law, and he always has. But even he was a piece of shit that summer.
I gotta say he got talked into something by his friends.
I guess so. They all got back to with their girlfriends after that. Every one of them was like, "Oh, I fucked up." They all had to go crawling back.
Oh
Spring
my
cleaning.
God.
But they were young. I mean, I get a 20-year-old guy doing that versus like a guy who's 38.
You know what? Now that you mention that, I did that once. See, here I was on my high horse,
You
like,
were
oh
in your
no,
20s, you were
I'm,
not.
I never talked to him again. I never. No, this was. I mean, it's definitely like college
Yeah.
ish, and I had, um, I had just left a kind of maybe like a year or two relationship, um, from from college, from a girl I met in college, and I actually reached back. I can't even remember how I did it or how it came up, because this was before like social media really and all that type of
Yeah.
shit. Like I mean maybe MySpace or something like that, but I had I reached out to a previous ex, um, that you would be familiar with, and totally tried to like reconnect. And it was my understanding that they were in a relationship at that time, and yeah, it wasn't great. Like
It didn't
there
go as
was
planned.
I don't, well, definitely no. But I know what I was thinking at the time. I know what I was thinking at the time was similar to what you were just saying about your brother. Like
Yeah.
this relationship I was just in was a disaster. And the one that I was in before that was the one, and I fucked that up. And like
Yeah.
that should have worked. And the reason it didn't work was my fault, which was not the fucking case.
No.
But but I was convincing myself of that, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, you had it so great, everything was so awesome, so you should go back to that and then fix it, and then just make it right. Well, I know, that's what was going through my head,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I took a swing, and I mean, I definitely made contact, but it wasn't, obviously, it didn't work out. But
In our 20s, I saw that happen with a lot of people. Like one of my very
yeah,
best
shit, you were
friends.
living down the street from me at the time.
Yeah. I won't name names, but one of my very best friends broke up with someone and it didn't go so well with the next boyfriend, and then she went and got back together with him and married him. A couple people did that. You know what I mean? Like that was a
Yeah.
thing in our 20s. And I look at
I
it
mean,
now and
that's
I'm like,
not like
they're
the worst thing in the
happy.
world anymore.
No, I mean they're happy, I guess, but I don't know. There's always a part of, maybe it's just, there's always a part of me that's like no, I think there's something better. Or at least at that point. I was always so hopeful there was something better around the corner. Like I wasn't gonna settle for anything in my 20s.
Right.
But that didn't really
I mean,
work out well for me.
I mean, we were off and on with what's his face for quite a while,
In my 20s or
and
Jared in my 30s? Yeah.
oh,
In my 20s, I was off. Do you even remember that guy,
can you
Jonathan?
hear me? I can't
Yeah.
hear you.
Uh-oh. I'm good. I've got full bars. I can hear you. Okay, now I can hear you.
There we go. We're
All
back.
right, we're back. I can't see you again though, so I think you have to turn your video back on.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, in my 20s, to backtrack. So, well, I had my high school boyfriend, and then I had my college boyfriend, and then in my late 20s, when I played roller derby, remember that guy Jonathan I was on and off again with for years? Like that was
Yeah.
and that was a mess, and that ended in a restraining order and him trying to kill me.
Yes.
So that was when I was
Yeah.
like
I
29, and
remember
then I
that.
took a year off from dating, but that was a revolving door too. I've always done this thing. Um, and then I took a year off from dating to like do therapy because he literally tried to kill me. Like that was for real.
Yeah, I remember that. I
That was
definitely
scary.
remember that.
Um, but then when I decided to date again, I dated a little, and then I found Jared, who I ended up,
Yeah.
marrying later and having Radley with. But that wasn't like, we didn't plan to like have a family. Like we didn't even plan to live together. Like we were dating and we are always fighting, and then his mom kicked him. He lived with his mom.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
mom kicks him out. And so he was like, fuck, I guess I have to move in with you until I figure it out. Like we don't want to move in together.
Till
And
I
then
figure it out.
and Danny was still a roommate,
Yeah.
and then so the three of us were living together, and then I accidentally got pregnant, and I
Other
was
Danny,
like,
not Texas
yeah,
Danny.
no, not no Kindle Scooter Danny, but yeah, college Danny. So and then I got pregnant, and so I was like, well, I guess now we're having a kid. And then Danny didn't want to move out, and I had to be like, Danny, we're having a baby. You can't stay living with each other with us. Probably should have let her, but
This all this feels like it was like very recently, but it was not. It
it
was a
wasn't.
long fucking time ago.
But that's why I tell people like all of you guys seem to have like most of my friends like chose their husband and then they decided to have a baby and like I didn't choose anything in my fucking life. It just happened to me.
Right. Right.
I'm I'm not complaining really, but and then Jared and I we
No.
were I think and then we broke up and got back together every other year after
Yeah.
that
A
for
bunch of
12
times.
years. Every other year, literally, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you said something
Yeah.
about him once, and I can't
I
remember the phrase. There was one time we were going to like a party at Nikki's, and you were talking about him, and I keep trying to remember this phrase. You said something about like it was basically that he couldn't get it right even if it was handed to him, but it was like a what's the saying? Do
oh
you know what I'm talking
God.
about? Oh, I wish I remember it.
I can only imagine what I might have said. Uh, no, I don't remember specifically what. I
I
get
wish I
what you're
did.
saying though, and it's a pretty good description. Yeah,
I
I
I
don't
mean I
see
have
now. I
my
don't.
issues too, but that's basically all I and then this is where I just so my big aha moment just this month has been that I left my marriage 2 years ago thinking, oh my gosh, I have done some healing work now because I had done all that therapy before I really left. And now I fixed my shit and I love being married. I love having a family. I just had the wrong guy picked, but now I'm healed. So
Yeah,
I'm going to go find the right guy and I'm going to have another. I thought I was
yeah.
going to get married right away and have one more
Like,
baby. And so I jumped directly out of an abusive marriage into the lion's den and fucked up my life even worse. So now I'm just
yeah.
alone and I am trying to just not be traumatized by men for a long time. But it was my own
See, I
doing.
don't. Yeah, and I don't. I feel like I always did sort of make my own decisions as far as like relationships went and what I wanted to do with life and whatnot. Um, so I don't have any like I don't I mean like there's definitely some stuff I wish I did better or you know people I treated better stuff like that. Like that's the type of stuff that bugs me.
Yeah.
Um, but but I mean as far as like what I saw going back 20 years ago, it's not wildly different from what I would have
Yeah.
picked. It's
But
just
you always knew you didn't want kids, so there was like a lot less pressure
right,
there, I think, in all of that.
right. Well, that actually that that screwed me a bunch of
Yeah,
times. Like that's like
I remember that.
there was I mean, God, there was like
You had that one girlfriend that you really loved, and but she didn't want kids, and that was really hard. I remember that one right before Tanya, wasn't it?
yeah, right, correct.
Like that's
Yeah, it was.
hard.
I mean, there was like 45 seconds where I thought maybe I could have kids. And I'll never forget it because I was in a relationship I was in college, and I don't know what we were in some store. I want to say it was like a Winkies type thing, like a general type store, and we were shopping for something for her nephew, and we were like playing with these little toys or stuffed animals or whatever. And I remember she said to me right as we were standing there, she said, I know you don't want kids, but I think you would be an incredible dad. Like you're really good with kids and you're just whatever. And I swear it was like 45 seconds right there at that point in time where I was like, yeah, maybe I could. And then seriously, less than a minute later, I was like, no,
No, it's
absolutely
because
not.
it's that Leo energy. It's because it was it wrapped in a compliment that she made you think about it. It was the only
Right.
reason,
That it was
right?
this is a great idea.
Otherwise,
No,
no.
terrible idea.
I
No,
still
I just did.
people always say, like people that have known me as long as you do, or even in my 20s, whenever I run into them, are like, it's so weird to me that you're a mom, and I'm like, I'm not that big of a piece of shit. Like, come on,
No,
guys.
like I don't find out big. See, I don't like for me the whole having kids thing was never it was me almost like self-defeating myself. Like I didn't want to take the risk. I didn't want to take the risk of being potentially being a bad parent, but it was
Yeah,
more I always told myself it was based on me knowing myself and that I know me and I know what makes me tick. And everything that kids represent is everything that would throw my life into a absolute tailspin.
Yeah.
So to me, it wasn't worth, because I know everybody says, oh, well, yeah, but once you have the kid, everything changes, whatever. Like that seems like a pretty significant risk that
Yeah.
I'm just not willing to mess up some poor kid's life because I'm, you know, very structured and very, whatever. And you literally introduce chaos into your life. Like God bless people that
Yeah.
do it, especially that do it, with, plan on doing it. But that was my thing. And also just my somewhat like the anxiety stuff. Like I would be so scared of like, is my kid okay? Is a kid like,
Yeah.
that would I wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to handle it. I know I wouldn't be able to handle it. So
It is weird, I'll say it, because like
it
I
was the
wasn't.
right decision.
Yeah, no, and it's everybody has their own decision. I think whatever happens, people just figure it out is what I'll say. Because all the things you're
Hmm.
saying, I've experienced, even though I've done it. And
Right.
I kind of joke that like, my son's gonna need a reason to see a therapist anyway, so you're welcome. Like I've done that for you, but I've definitely fucked him up by a lot of that shit. But um, I don't. Here's the whole thing. Even the people who like make it look like they're doing this perfect job and are the greatest parents usually aren't. It's all bullshit. So
Oh yeah.
I think it's
They're
like
screaming at that kid at some point that they would never want anybody to see,
no,
like see a
nobody's
replay of.
no, and
Right.
especially like when I was like doing the most for what it looked like to everyone else, and I look back, so when Radley was a baby, like I had him in Milwaukee Montessori. I was paying $1,300 a month for
Yeah.
pre college, a college prep pre-K for an 18-month-old, and I was making all this food from scratch, and I was fucking losing my mind at home because you can't do
Yeah.
that many things. I was also working like 60 hours a week and going to school full
Yeah.
time, and like,
See, and that's the other thing, the work, the earning money, like that's the part that would have fucking killed me.
wow, you make
Absolutely
good
would have
money.
killed
Well,
me.
what do you mean? Just
No,
the
but I would
pressure
have been
of, yeah,
correct.
it lights a
There
fire
never
under
would have
you.
been enough. There would have never been enough. Like I would
Yeah.
have always felt, yeah, that would have absolutely destroyed my
It for
brain.
me, it was a gift because it made me look at my own shit finally. Because I mean,
Yeah.
like honestly, I don't know if I've ever told you that story, but because it was right around COVID, but I left Jared for well, it wasn't the last time, but it felt like it. On my 40th birthday, I left him. Um, and because Radley looked at me, Radley was starting to have, so he was like 5 then, and he was starting to have like a lot more. It was right after we got married. He was having trouble getting along with kids in school,
Yeah.
and he was having nightmares every night, and we were I was like doing all this stuff. I was like, wow, we're gonna cut out red food dyes. You're not watching any YouTubes, no more video, no more
No
screen
more
time.
soda. No more.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
all these things, like, oh my gosh, let's do everything to help him. And I remember he looks at me and he was like, it's not because of all of the food I'm eating, it's because of you, it's because you're always yelling. And I was like, oh fuck. And at that point,
Mm,
me and his dad were fighting all the time, and I was like,
yeah.
I need to go. So I
Talk about a
literally,
gut check. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just packed up and I moved. I took the dog and the little guy, and I moved into that condo in Pewaukee. And then
Yeah.
we were there, and the next morning we woke up, and I was like, thank God we're here. I remember waking up like, thank God I did the right thing. Now everything's gonna be okay. And getting ready for school that morning, I fucking screamed at him, and Junie was a puppy, and I just tore him to shreds. And I go, it's not Jared, it was me. Like I wasn't even here. I'm just acting just like my
I
parents
tore him to
did.
shreds.
So this is where my whole journey started, because I went to work. I literally got on my employer's website and found the closest therapist to me, and was
Counseling.
like, I
Yeah.
need to talk to someone today. I'm ruining my child's life. And like he said it a couple months later. He goes, no, I told you it wasn't you and daddy. It's just you yelling all the time that's making me. And the moment I like fix
Wow.
my shit and stop doing that, he's fine. And even now, that's why I stopped dating again too, because he started to have problems again. I was like, fuck, I can't deal with. I am fine, but if I get in an emotional, if I get in a romantic relationship with someone where it's at all similar to like the dynamic with my parents, which was unhealthy, I get unwell very fast. And then I
Mm,
start taking it out on I go into fight or flight, and I lose my shit, and I'm not okay. And so like I found myself doing that again, when me and that last guy broke up, just because I was healing, and I'm like, I can't fucking take, I don't want to be this piece of shit mom that takes this out of my kid.
right. I had one, there was and this was actually like one of my shorter relationships, like 2 or 3 months maybe. Um, and this was, uh, 15 years ago, maybe. And I was living with my brother at the time, and I'll never forget this because I thought, everything was great. We were getting along great. We had so much fun together, and all of a sudden she just like stone cold out of nowhere broke it off with me. And
Mhm.
it's like, what's going on? Like, what's the problem? And she said to me, you're too angry of a person. And I said, what are you talking about? And the weekend before, when she was over, me and my brother had gotten into an argument.
Yeah.
And him and I just we were like fucking
Yeah.
screaming at each other, right?
Yeah.
And it was one of those, like, fuck you, whatever, go do blah blah blah, whatever, just screaming at each other. And then her and I left and went out and did whatever. She never said nothing. And then
Yeah.
like the next, couple of days later, maybe she had to think on it, or she breaks up me, and that argument apparently was like she was shocked by it. And it was
Yeah.
like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, this is my brother. Like,
Yeah.
this is a, but that's initially what I thought. And then after like a day or two, it really, like, I felt really, really awful. And I went and legitimately went and signed through work portal, signed up for counseling. I started
Yeah.
going to a counselor, and I went for like, God, I think I was going every other week, and I went for like 3 or 4 months. And I remember telling her at some point, like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I really took what you said to heart. And
Yeah.
it's not like I was really trying to like get back together with her. It
No.
was just like, it was more like, I want you to know
Yeah.
that I'm not a bad person. It's
Yeah.
probably what it was. But it was, so yeah, I went to this, and I remember I was seeing this guy, this counselor. And he was like, it was like the sixth or seventh appointment, and he was saying to me, oh shit, hold on, there we go. He kept asking me like the same questions, and I was giving him the same answers. And I started to feel like I was in this weird place where this guy was just like stringing me along,
Mhm.
taking my copay every time that I showed
Yeah.
up. And so I started asking him questions. And when he couldn't answer my questions, I knew that was like it.
So it
Like,
didn't
I'm
go
done.
well.
Like, this is, and it was, so maybe it was just a bad match, Eros, but I almost like, I feel like I learned more from that, in like, about myself, in the way of like, certain people are going to sometimes view you a certain way, and you don't have control over that, even if
Right.
you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So oh,
Are you frozen again? I can see you. I can hear you too. Can you not hear? You can't hear me? I don't think it's me when that's happening. Okay, now you're back.
there we go. It kicked one of
But
us out.
but I cannot, now I can see. Okay. I think it's you. I don't know. I'm just blaming other people. But
So
anyway.
yeah, that was a big thing for me. That was like, it, and I was maybe only, at that time, must have been 27, 28, so not like terribly old or anything.
Yeah.
Like, still learning. And that was a big thing for me. That was like, hey, sure, you were judged in that instance on one small thing, and I really, took it to heart and decided, I need to make these big changes,
Yeah.
and realized, nah, you don't really need to make these big changes. Maybe you need to be more little, conscious of who's around when you're having whatever conversation.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things. Like, that was a big learning moment for myself.
Yeah, that makes me think of two things. First, I think my brother and I, even growing up in the same house, have vastly different experiences of what happened,
Right.
and it's
Right.
traumatized me a lot more. So everyone in my house talked like that growing up. We, my family gets in fights and they
Yeah.
scream and cuss each other out, and then it's over. And my brother is still like that. Him and Michelle, I stayed with them for 2 weeks, and Rad was a baby, and I had to go because I was like horrified because they're like, "Fuck you, you fucking asshole," and I'm like, they're like, "What are we eating for dinner?"
You
They're
guys
like,
are super Italian.
they are. We are super Italian, but it's like a lot. It's a lot. Even Radley actually stayed there a couple of weeks ago. It was my birthday weekend, and he hadn't been there since before COVID for the weekend, and he loved it. He had so much fun. But I said, "Can I just ask you something? How do they talk in their house compared to what we're used to?" And he went, "They are crazy, but it's so much fun." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "They're
That's what
so fun."
Radley said.
Yeah, he goes, "They're like really mean, but it's just funny, and nobody actually is
They're
mad at each
really
other."
mean.
Yeah, and he's like, "There's so much swearing," and then they're like, "Fuck you," and then and I go, "Yeah." It's anyway. I cannot do it. Like that is one of the things my parents. I because I grew up like that, like, and it probably I think now knowing what I know, it has to do with like what happened to us in past life because we actually have trauma. I think that we carry forward from that, which is what makes us different. But like because I cannot, and like that was the thing with now my house when I do that it makes me unwell and it's like fuck, I gotta not do it, but I
Right.
don't like fighting with anyone or having so anyone I've dated that have been so would never raise their voice, would never just like very I don't even like being teased, Andy, like I don't like being picked on. I don't
Yeah.
because it feels too traumatic when people so I would have been more like her. I was like, hey, I can't, it's not a good fit for me, even though I think it just has to do with the shit that you're everyone knows what works for them. Like you said, that's what you're where
Right.
you wanted. I
Right.
mean,
Well, yeah, like you had that thing, or whatever. I think you right when before we signed up to do this, you were like, "We need to talk about this." It was that you said your viral text message or
oh,
whatever,
that.
like, well, like you said, and like you just said, everybody has their line that they need to draw. Like you, and
Yeah.
you drew a line, and that line got crossed. Then that's when you need to
But
tell
that
somebody to
guy,
fuck off or
that one's
whatever.
different because that's been 2 years of just nonsense, which I now realize I fucked up. Here's what I I don't know. I don't I it's he first of all, when we to go back to being too much like our family, he is too much like my dad and my brother. Where and I thought because he's chill and he never raises his voice and he's just like, you know, that was a good thing, but he never talks about anything either. And then I won't
Yeah.
hear from him 2 weeks, so I move on with my life. I get a new boyfriend, and then he comes out of nowhere like, how can you already fall in love with a stranger, which he wasn't wrong on that, right? But like, okay, like what is going on, like
Yeah,
you
but
already have a
whatever.
boyfriend, like, and like we're each other's partners always, and like it's this trauma bond where he just wants to like, but he never fucking does anything about it, and like he got in a whole ass relationship for a while too, so it's just i my spirituality fucked me over on that because I drank this whole like twin flame tea thinking like there's one person that you're more meant for than anyone, and him and
And
I
that was
do.
it.
Yeah, and him and I have this really strong, but it's so unhealthy, and that's where I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter anymore. I think all these spiritual people out there, like, they're ruining their fucking lives over someone that they're just supposed to be like. This is a bad fit because it feels too much like my parents, or
Right.
our needs can't be met, and I need to honor myself and like move along.
Right. Well, but then you get those people too that I think that are like they they keep themselves in situations because it does feel like their
Yes,
parent relationship.
and I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's always daddy issues. And I have my own mommy issues too. But when it comes to the guys I'm dating, I love my dad. I have a really close relationship with him, but it's not, he doesn't like spending time with me. So, and he's always worked all the time. And like, even we're going to the Packer game, the Thursday night game in November. He's got tickets. And
Hmm.
he even said, well, your stepmom doesn't want to go because it's 7 p.m. on a Thursday. And then your brother doesn't want to either. So do you want to come with me? I'm always the last one on the list. Like, it's not.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
God,
But
just leave that part out, Dad.
but he and he doesn't even okay. He just like he'll always say stuff like, "Oh, I overhear him telling other." He's really nice to me, but like I'll overhear him saying like, "Yeah, I take my grandson once a month to get him away from his crazy mom." And I heard him say that at the family reunion. I go, "What the fuck is that? I'm not crazy." And he goes, "You know." I said, "No."
I'm just messing with you. Yeah,
But
buddy.
because he doesn't really like women, and so I love him, but he doesn't. And so I keep finding guys that are like this, and it's my ex-husband was not. Jared had a lot of problems, but he's not like that. He always used to be like, what is wrong with them? Like
Yeah.
my dad and my brother, they're the kind of guys that refer to women as broads and like talk about people's boobs all the time.
It's
My brother was
funny.
like, yeah, I'm on TikTok, but I just follow a bunch of broads. I said, yeah, I know. I looked at your following. It's just women in
Oh my
bikinis.
God.
It's not. It is. Maybe some NASCAR.
Oh,
So like
Andy.
I know, but I keep dating guys that are like that, and then I don't know why I don't get along with them. But it's because it's not for me. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't, my thing, and almost like the only line I've ever had forever is like when I feel like somebody's trying to, mm, I'm going to say like make me something I'm not, or make me do something that I either A, don't want to do, or it's just turn me into somebody that I'm not. And it's usually those instances, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like you're in an argument with somebody
Mm.
and it's like, it could be like the worst argument in the world. And you might say, like for me, I'll say, we're hitting pause. Like this getting way, this has gotten too escalated. I need to take a break, whatever. And they won't let me. Like they're like, no, no, fuck you, you piece of shit. You're not working, oh, you're just gonna walk away now, blah, blah. It's like, no, 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 no. I'm the reason that I'm, throwing the flag in or I'm throwing the towel in right now is because I feel like I'm about to go to a place that I don't want to go to and I don't want to ever even imagine that I could go to. And you're trying to push that envelope right now. Like, no, we're not solving anything right now. Like, let's just, so I don't like,
Yeah.
that's my big thing. Like if you're in a disagreement with somebody or you're not seeing eye to eye on something and they won't just let you hit pause, like they want to keep pushing the issue and pushing
Yeah.
you is the more like that. I just won't. It's like, nah, you're trying to, like, I'm telling you, I don't feel, I'm not in a good spot right now. And you're willing to see how far past that spot you can take me. And that's not good. That's not healthy.
I think I've done that. But let me tell you, this is how it feels to me on the other. I
I
know
knew you were going to know what I was talking about.
because I was like, ugh, because I kind of did that again with the same guy with that. This whole thing has been going on for 2 years, right? But for me, because every time I've tried to talk about something, he's like, I'm not doing this right now. My dad's here, or like it's always the wrong time. And maybe it's different
Well,
in that
that's
you
different.
have to circle
That's
back to
different.
it eventually, is what I'm saying. As
Right.
long as you're like circling back to it,
Right.
that makes
Avoidance is
sense.
a completely different thing. Like
Yeah.
you can't, you can't just say, because that could be the answer. Oh yeah, yeah, just not right now. It's not a good time. And then you just, like you said, you never circle back to it. No,
No.
I'm talking about those instances where you're like,
Yeah.
this, everything is, there's too much, like everything's up here.
Yeah.
And if we're going to talk about anything, it needs to be way
I
down
agree with
here.
that. That's just a healthy
Yeah.
tactic. I think a lot of times
Yeah.
people, especially women, will do that when they're so scared to lose someone that they're like, oh no, well, we can't leave it. We can't walk away. What if that? Because then they start to
Right.
freak. It's like an
Right.
abandonment thing.
Well, I think a lot of people are like that, where they're like, no, we're solving this now. We need to
Yeah.
solve it right now because I can't walk. And that's just not, I mean, like it's okay to take a,
You have so much fire in your chart though. All that Leo, I mean, Leo's pretty, it's not like the Aries energy is like meaner, but like Leo is still fire. So like that's good that you recognize that you have to go cool off a little before you
right.
come back to it.
Well,
That's
and I
just knowing
don't,
yourself. That's healthy.
I'm, I don't know if I mean, this seems to be like anti everything you're seeing in on your charts or whatever, but like, I feel like as I've gotten older, especially like the last like 5 years or so, I've turned into like this annoyingly big pragmatist. Like I just, it almost probably comes off like I don't care about anything because I don't take a side on anything, or
That's the
like I
Aquarius
always
one. Yeah.
see, yeah, and I'm always like, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. I can have a really, really strong opinion, but I will stop myself and say, well, but if you look at it from this side, and so like I get people
Yeah.
coming to me all the time with their bullshit or whatever, and they're like, "Well, talk to me about this," and then they don't get what they want from me because at first I'm on their side, and then I'm like, but if you stop and think about what the other person, and then they're irritated because they're like, no,
Yeah.
I'm like, and that's just something, and I feel like that's has just happened to me in like the
Well,
last 5 years.
it's just because
It's
you're
it's
coming more into your
weird.
core personality. Your moon is in Aquarius, so that's an air sign. So that's like that. I always say everyone complains at Aquarius moons that we don't fucking care, but the good news is we don't fucking care. We don't. I don't care. So I can do same thing. Like I was on debate team in high school, right? So every year in debate, there's a topic that's really broad, and you have an affirmative and a defensive side.
Yeah,
And I always had to be the 1AR, the first affirmative person, because the debate needs kick off with a 7 minute speech, and whatever that 1AR person introduces, all the facts in their opening argument of what their position is.
yeah.
Um, you have to be a fast talker. The more data you can get in, the better. So I was always that. So, but it was perfect because it was on big topics like immigration and all this, and I
Yeah,
didn't fucking care. So I was like, okay, affirmative, negative, I don't care. Put me on either side. I'll argue it just the same, because
right.
we don't fucking care. So it's not a bad
Yeah.
thing. I think you just let
Well,
go of more.
it's not that I don't care. It's just like that it feels like all of a sudden I have this like need to be present on both sides or think that I'm like I'm always trying to think everything through the
Yeah.
whole way around. Like and I've said this to people before, like I hope this isn't like annoying. Like this isn't, like you think I'm avoiding answering you. It's just like
Yeah.
this is how I think of things now.
No,
I
your Mars is in Gemini too. I didn't realize that. So you have a lot of air there too. So like when your Mars is kind of I don't know. I don't know how to explain Mars, but that's kind of the way you look at the world too. And so that would be, I think that's part of that. Like it's air. Air is flexible. Like think about it. So you're like a wind. You can go either way. I think it's just being able to hold
right.
space. People with a lot of air in their chart, like me, can hold space for anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Well, see, and it's not even like going either way. I
Right.
usually have an opinion, but I'll stick to that opinion because I'm fucking stubborn.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm willing to say, but if you look at it from that perspective, I can understand why that person would do that, or
Yeah.
they would say this, or they would do that. And I just, like I said, I feel like it's probably annoying to people.
Who cares? Who cares?
Right.
No, I know
I
what you
should just
mean.
not care.
It's the Leo. It's
Like
only
really
the
not care.
Yeah, it's only the Leo in you that doesn't care or that cares. I have
That cares.
I have all this Libra, so um I made like one of those TikToks, that TikTok soundbite that's like the Katy Perry song where it's like she's got nothing in her brain. Like that's literally what's happening all the time. And I'm not stupid, but I was just talking about this with my other guy friend Jake on Wednesday. I was like, I think most of the time I get all out of this 2 years of dating, I've had a lot of amicable like breakups where we've been together 2 or 3 weeks. It's because I look like like I look attractive and like I'm going to be really fun and bubbly, and then I don't really have any emotional depth. I have nothing going on, and I'm not stupid. But then a few weeks in, they're just like, oh, and it's like your dog. My dog was trying to join the podcast too. No,
Yeah, she's
it doesn't
growling at
matter.
somebody else's daring to walk outside.
It doesn't matter. But yeah, I think that literally has happened to me a lot, and it's kind of almost frustrating because I don't know. I don't know how I was. What I said to Jake is, I go, I don't know how other people are that they have so much going on in their heads. And Jake goes, yeah, I've known a lot of girls like you, so I was like, oh, she's one of them. And I go, what does that mean? But I mean,
Yeah, I don't.
you know me well. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Um,
I'm not vapid,
well,
but I'm not like a
so
brain surgeon.
no, I don't. I know she's beside herself at the
He's fine.
moment. I my thing is, I think this is what we started with was it's not that there's nothing going on or nothing in my head. It's that there's way too much going on in my
Yeah,
head. So
yes.
it comes off like there's nothing going on in my head, but it's just because there's actually an infinite amount of shit going on in my head.
But you and I are opposite in that regard. That's your Leo versus my Libra. Like I've just got,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know. I think people always think I've got some sort of motive or I've got more that I'm going with than I do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that it makes complete sense.
But I don't.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always just like, too, like, why is everyone being so mean to me? And I'm just like, but It's because I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand how other people show up in relationships, I guess. I just want someone to like be there while I live my life. And I don't need to have things in common with them or do anything with them
Right.
per se. I just need them to
Right.
kind of like be there. I don't know. I think other people
Especially
like
now
why versus when? Why now?
versus like now in this stage of life versus
Yeah.
like, 20, 30 years ago, it was like, well, no, I need somebody in my life, and you have all these boxes you need to check off for whatever reason. Whereas now it's like
Yeah.
there's this stage of life where I have most of myself figured out and what I'm doing and where I'm going to be and the things that I want to do. And I want somebody that's going to come along, and ride shotgun for that, as
Yes.
opposed to like, you know, like 20 years ago, okay, I have this person, but we still need to pick out the car with the vehicle or
Yeah.
whatever that we're going to take on that trip.
Yeah.
You're already on the trip. Like now you
Right.
just need to, put somebody in the front seat.
Yeah. I can get along with like everyone. So it's like the last boyfriend. Oh, I was going to tell you this before. The last boyfriend, his reasoning why he broke up with me, and like he said it bothered him that I didn't clean my own house and I had a cleaning lady. And that so my dog, okay, my house is really it's really clean. I did now I don't have a cleaning lady. I actually have started doing my own. That's a long story. But anyway, I have 2,200 square feet by myself and I get really overwhelmed easily. So like having a cleaning lady would just help.
Yeah.
But
Who
the
gives
one
a
thing
shit?
well, the one thing that got away from me is that Junie is naughty. She steals stuff, my dog, right? And she does when she steals stuff, she goes under my bed. And so she will like eat something, but the wrapper will be down there. And my cleaning lady does not clean under my bed. So I have to remember to go under there and clean everything out. And
So there's like a treasure trove of shit under your bed.
well, the weekend that we broke up, like it was like he slept over with his boys on Saturday night, like because we were always together, like with our kids and stuff. And he got really weird on Sunday. And so anyway, I went over there Monday, and then he has this breakup talk with me, like that and he said, Judy stole one of my slides, like my shoes, so I had to go under the bed to get it before I left Sunday.
Oh
And he
my
was
God.
like, he goes, do you know? And I right
It's
away was
not
like,
okay. It's not okay under there.
and I go, yeah, I know. And honestly, I get a lot of anxiety about how to get under there and clean it well because it's a king size bed. I'm not a good cleaner. And like, it's not like, it's not dirty food garbage. It's just paper. She'll still
Shit.
like,
Right. Yeah.
the paper bag that a Starbucks croissant comes in. She'll steal that and get
Right.
every crumb, but shred it. Or like, one
Yeah.
time she stole a whole roll of toilet paper and shredded it under the bed. So whatever. It's not dirty, but it is garbage. And so I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I do. I'm overdue for getting. He goes,
Yeah.
why would you sleep in a bed when you know there's garbage under? Like, what is, and he was like, that's more concerning that you know it's there. I go, okay. The rest of my house is fucking
See ya.
immaculate. I
Yeah.
know. I was like, I can't, I go, if it was that big of a deal, why, I didn't say this to him. I just packed up all my shit and left. But like,
Right. Good.
what I said to
Good
Danny on the
move.
way home is I'm like, it just felt hypercritical, but also I was like, if you love cleaning so much, why don't you just fucking help me out and do it? Like
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
And then he went further and he said, he goes, I know, this is verbatim, I know that you make 3 times more than me, but your spending is concerning. It's crazy. And then he got out his calculator and calculated how much I spent on eyelashes every year. And I went, and he like, and I said, there's no, and I go, okay, I thought you were just getting back off on your feet after your last breakup. Like, I don't mean to pry, but since you're bringing it up, I know there's been times in my life, Andy, where I've had a large cash savings. Like, I know you always keep, you're responsible fiscally. At this point, I don't have that and I need to rebuild it. But like, I was like, I said to him, are you in a position where you have like 3, 8 months, bills saved? I thought you
Yeah.
were also just scraping by. And he was like, no, I am just scraping by. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I've literally almost been homeless before. So like to think about the fact that you don't think ahead, I go, well, yeah, but I've
That's his
never
own
been.
issue then.
Yeah, I said,
Yeah.
I've never been
That's
homeless.
your issue.
I'm like, I have like 10 different ideas. I go, I have money that's in investments that I could pull tomorrow. I have like, I go, do you, and not that we've ever
Right.
talked about it, but do you know that like I have a financial guy at Northwestern Mutual that I meet with quarterly? Like I have
Right.
money. I just don't keep cash. And honestly, and I'm not being a dick, but what I said to him, I go, you probably don't know this because I never told you, but I could call my mother tomorrow and say, I'm having a really rough time. Will you go put 5 grand in my account? And she would. I don't
Right.
do it, but like, I don't,
Right.
there's no world where I would ever be on the street. So like I was like, you know what? Thank you, goodbye, and I pack it. But like it was
Right.
just the weirdest reasons to be broken up with.
Like it goes back to what we've said right when we first started talking too, is that like that solving other people's issues. Like it's none of your fucking business what I spend my money on.
Yeah,
And if I'm sound financially, you have okay, so he has a hang up because he's been in XYZ place before.
yeah,
Totally understand it. I get it. I get where that's a sore subject for you, but you're not going to deflect your, you know, shit on me and make
right.
me, like that's not how it works. Like if you want to talk about that hang up that you have or that issue, then let's talk about it. But
Yeah,
you're not gonna force it on me. Yeah,
it
fuck
it
that.
felt weird. I mean, I will say. So I think what I think he wanted to stay friends and work on ourselves and see if we can't figure it out. And I was like, I already know that the money and like I'm very self-reflective. The money and the cleaning thing specifically was a thing we talked about in my marriage. I'm not going to revisit it. So I just started getting all my
Right.
stuff and packing it out in my truck. And I think he was like, oh shit. I think he was surprised that I did that.
That you just, yeah, well, hey,
I mean, like
lesson learned.
literally, I do need to work on budget, and cleaning freaks me out. Like, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm home enough, and things slow down with work and stuff that I can clean my own house, and I've healed enough that I'm not as anxiety ridden, and I make Radley help me get the garbage
Yeah.
under the bed if I'm being honest, because he's 9 and he can fucking go under there.
You can go under
Problem
there.
solved. But he can cry about it, but I'm gonna make him. But
Yeah.
I don't need it. I think it starts with that, and then that I don't need anyone being that hypercritical. I mean, it was hard because everything else was so good. But like, long story short, he of course popped back up, a couple weeks later and had more of my stuff, and it was just like, whatever. And
Of
then
course he did.
I haven't heard from him since, but he works with one of my friend's husbands, and he moved on really quick. He had a new girlfriend who he met her parents like 2 weeks later, I think 3 weeks
Oh,
later, like,
Jesus.
so I was like, oh, I think I saved, but it's just like, that's why it's just really, dating's very strange.
Yeah.
And I think people always expect me to be a certain way, and then I'm not that, and they get like, I don't think men especially take the time to get to know me. They get excited about me, and then like a few weeks in, they're like, oh, you're not X, Y, and Z, and they're like upset about it. It's just weird.
That's the deal of dating though, right? Like you meet somebody in the first, however many days or weeks or whatever, it's new
Yeah,
and exciting or whatever. And then once you start to get to the actual,
yeah.
meat and potatoes of who somebody is.
Well, that's what he said too. He was like, the honeymoon phase is over, and I think you're great, but this is just what I'm left with. And I was just like, I guess I don't think I do that.
Uh,
I don't idealize anyone in the beginning, but I don't know why these guys get so fucking excited. Like, everyone tells me they love me right away, and they're like, he was asking me to move in after a week. Well, why don't fucking do that to women? Like, what is wrong with you?
yeah, I cannot relate to at
I know.
all.
I know but that's why I think, see, this is good though, because I think we all get stuck in these circles of people who are doing similar, living life similar to us. And,
Right.
I needed to like remember that not all guys are pieces of shit. So you're kind of helping me to do that. Like, there are people that are self-reflective and like,
Good. I'm glad I can help.
and that's why I'm not dating until guys like that start showing up again. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
can't keep doing this where I'm getting broken up with
Right.
because my dog takes Starbucks wrappers under the couch or whatever bed. Fuck.
That seems fair if we're being honest.
I know. I just, whatever. Anyway. All right. Well, we're
Uh,
going to wrap it up. But thank you for talking with me,
all
Andy.
right. No,
Thank you
thank
for
you for letting me do this. I
Thank you
appreciate it.
for messing up the Wi-Fi so that I'm not actually have to edit this thing and go in and clip parts out, Andy. It's making it work.
Sorry.
I know.
Yeah, let's look at it as, because I'm going to be pragmatic about it. Let's look at it as it's a learning experience. You're going to be
Editing
able to go
skills.
in
Yeah,
and learn these things, and
I know. I'd just tell you to go fuck yourself if my mom wasn't listening. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I'll talk to you later, Andy.
hi, Mom.
Bye.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.